What's up, my fellow comic book readers? Guys, if you're coming over here from my short form content, whether it's YouTube Shorts, Instagram, or TikTok, I appreciate you. If you're not already following me on all those platforms, Be Solo Books on everything. Drop a follow, talk to me about whatever, depending on what media you're on the most, okay? But I did a short review about my 10. I ranked them. I did a Part A, Part B, 1 through 5, 6 through 10. I will say 1 through 8 were all good comics. Issue 9 was just a bad ending to a good series. And issue 10 was just, I was lost. I read it and I was just like, I don't think I belong here. But we're going to yap a little bit longer this time. We're going to talk about all 10 comics that I read this morning. And we're going to start off with my number 1 out of the 10. I will start with, they're all indie comics. I am 3 weeks behind in my reading, so these comics could come anywhere from this Wednesday to 3 Wednesdays ago, okay? Word. Yeah, yesterday and then 2 Wednesdays ago, okay? But we're going to start off Jason Aaron's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. This has been my favorite ongoing run, and it continues to impress me every single time. The Ninja Turtles, they got taken to court by D.A. Haley, who's a bad guy. He's in charge of the foot soldiers. The foot soldiers have been issued, an order to go and do whatever he says. And then everything falls apart for D.A. Haley. The Turtles, the crowd breaks into the courtroom. The crowd, I don't want to give away too many spoilers, okay? But everything falls apart for D.A. Haley in this one. Rightfully so, because he's a POS, right? He's doing bad things. He thinks that, if you're not like rich and powerful, and even if you are, you should bow down to him. But if you're not rich and powerful, you don't even belong to exist. You know what I mean? Like, he's a bad dude, bad thought process. He finds his way in charge somehow, and then he takes charge of the foot soldiers and has them doing bad things and pretty much framing the Ninja Turtles. But the Ninja Turtles, they're the good guys in the story, and they're gonna win, and they win in this one. And at the end, I will say, a reason to read this issue. Something horrible happens to D.A. Haley at the end of this issue, and you might assume it, you might not assume it, but something that he's been going against happens to him. So I thought that was a cool little piece they put in there. But I don't think Jason Aaron and Juan Ferreyra, I don't think they're going to be on the next issue. I think it's a new team stepping in. Or issue number 12 is going to be their last. I can't remember whether this is the last or issue 12 is going to be their last. But it's interesting that, as they're exiting, they have something as crazy as what happens to Haley in this one happen. So I thought this was a fantastic issue. That was my number 1, okay? Not issue number 2, but my second favorite of the 10 that I read this morning. We got Sisterhood issue number 3. If you've been reading, you know that one of the sisters got killed in a frat, sorority, not frat, like a sorority induction. She got killed, and then she comes back to her other sister. They're not actual sisters, but something horrible happened to them when they were younger, and they became sisters. And they grew up doing everything together, including going to the same college. So when this shit happens, it kind of like really has a horrible effect on the living sister. And then the dead sister, starts convincing her to do evil things. At the end of last issue, she did something, she did something horrible, and then this issue, you find out that how the dead sister is doing the horrible things, and then something really crazy happens at the end that I did not see coming at all, and so it's hard to talk about stuff without giving it away. I don't know if you've ever tried to do a quick hey, this is what happened without telling you what happened. But some bad stuff happens to the living sister. She does some bad stuff, but it's not entirely her fault, other than the fact that she's going along with it. But at the end, she tries not to go along with it, and then something horrible happens to her. So, if you're not reading Sisterhood, if you're saying, "Oh, I got to read Hyde Street first," you don't have to read Hyde Street first. This is a Hyde Street story, and if you're reading Hyde Street, there's little things where you're like, "Oh, I see how it's a Hyde Street spinoff." But it doesn't really have a whole lot to do with Hyde Street, at least not in the first 3 issues. You can read this without having read Hyde Street and enjoy the hell out of it. I promise you. All right. Number 3 out of 10, okay? This is another Image title. We got Everything Dead and Dying. I'm a huge zombie buff. I love zombies. I grew up watching, George Romero zombies, and on to the fast moving ones that we got in World War Z, right? This is a unique spin on zombies. This farmer right here, his husband and his daughter, and everybody that he loves, was infected, and he was also exposed. But I don't want to give away too much of the story. I want you guys to read these, okay? But it's a unique spin off on zombies. He's kind of like in a loop, like every day is the same. He's taking care of his town. He's taking care of his animals. He's taking care of the people in the town. He's just a really freaking good guy. And at the very end, something changes to him. It kind of reminded me of Michonne. If you watched The Walking Dead, or maybe if you've read the comics, I haven't read the comics for it. Don't shoot me, okay? I'm just a man, okay? But if you watch The Walking Dead, Michonne's story, how she kind of was like living amongst the zombies, and how she was like, trying to hold on to a little bit of the past by keeping two people around her, and yada yada yada. Although Michonne's story is very uniquely different, it also kind of reminded me a little bit of it, because she wasn't entirely in the whole like we got to go kill all the zombies thing. He's doing something similar. I thought this was a great book. If you're into zombies, I definitely recommend this. If you're into post-apocalypse, like unique spins on unique post-apocalypse, I definitely recommend this. If you're into farmland stuff, probably wouldn't read this. It doesn't, he talks about being a farmer, but there's not really like farm shit going on other than I don't know. That was probably a horrible explanation. Number 4, we got Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees, okay? I'm in love with this. Horvath is killing it. So I read the trade for the first series, because this is the second series of Beneath the Trees. In the first series, you find out, what she is and what she's about, right? So the way I've been explaining this is, and this is the second time I've said this in my 3 videos I've made today, but I explain it as Bearstein Bears and Dexter. Not Dexter's Lab, but Dexter, the horrible guy, that does horrible things to bad people. She is just a normal person in her town, except when she's not. She is doing crazy work. And this is a little bit older. I think probably like, well, it's a modern book. Like, the book just came out like last week or this week. I can't remember which one. But it's being told through like, I think the early 90s. I'm pretty sure early 90s. Because her town just gets internet. And this one, she's finding it like times are becoming modern, and she's finding it harder to find places to do her dirty work, and places to like, she labels it places to like quiet places to do her job, or to think. I can't remember exactly how she words it, but she's looking for a place to like bury the bodies, right? But this issue is kind of like setting up for what's to come, I think, because she's just getting the internet. Somebody in her town gets the internet for the first time and then comes and tells her, and like, hey, our town's famous because there's a serial killer here. And she's like, before he can even finish it, like, he turns back around and she's gone, because she's going to get the internet to try to find out like what the hell's going on in the internet. You know what I mean? So I thought this was a great issue. This one was a little bit slower, but there is, some action in it. A little bit slower than the last. The last issue was kind of like a big setup for like the overall story. This one was kind of like a setup for the run. But with them being setups, there also is action in them, and there's story building, and I love how he's doing this. It's not slow paced. It's not crazy fast paced. It's the pace it needs to be for this story to freaking be amazing. And I love this. If I didn't have the other 3 that were fucking amazing books in front of this had potential to be my number 1. I can't express to like the first 8 that I'm going to talk about are all really good comics. 9 was just a bad ending to a good run, and then 10 was the one that I would say stay away from. Okay, but that's number 4. Number 5, we got Shredder. Okay, I know this is like a week or 2 old, but Shredder's, it's the story of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Although the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles ain't in this one. Okay, Shredder is coming back. He kind of disappeared. He went on a, he just left and everybody thought he was dead. And I guess he's tired of hiding. He came back to reclaim his throne. He goes back to his old dojo, finds that it's been taken over by another, bad guy or bad girl. And he works his way pretty much up to the top of the dojo, killing everybody there, and gets to her. And then she kicks his ass. But he gets saved by, I don't know if it's, I can't remember if it's the FBI or, somebody big in the police force, right? They've been watching her in her dojo, and then when he breaks in, they have to interject because, they think he's going to ruin their operation, and he kind of does, but they save him. But when he's being held, another girl comes in that's like in charge of like, the FBI's most wanted list type shit. And she's like, hey, you used to be at the top, now you're not at the top, and we're willing to work with you if you'll help us get this girl. So he has to make the decision whether he's going to, like, work with them or, go on being a bad guy, or both, because it's Shredder, he can do both, you know what I mean? But I thought this was a really great issue, a great issue number 1. I'm excited to see where this story goes. And everything about what's going on with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles right now, and I know there's about to be a Casey Jones story coming out. I want more. Hopefully, I haven't heard anything about it. Hopefully, they give us an April story, because April is in the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So hopefully, she's in there. Casey Jones, we found out, I forgot to mention that in the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. We found out Casey Jones has come out of his coma. So, I'm sure that's where it's going to pick up in the Casey Jones story that we're going to get here shortly. But Shredder, great piece of work, man. All right, next up, I think this is my number. I think we're breaking into the second set, right? This is number 6. We got Speed Racer issue number 2. Speed Racer is in the hospital with his dad, finds out that his dad needs a heart surgery, and the only way to get it that he knows of is to race. So Speed Racer goes and joins the circuit. The only thing his dad asked that if he was going to go join the circuit, the only thing he asked him was to not join the cat team, I think. CAT. Not, there's periods in between, so it's the CAT team, right? He, follows his dad's wish, and then kind of hooks up with a girl that he ghosted to get a chance to race under her. So it's kind of like a little bit of he even explains it as, or I think his younger brother explains it as like an awkward moment. But he gets his chance to go race, and then, Speed Racer does this thing, and he might have taken first place. But I have this ranked a little bit lower than where I had issue number 1 ranked, just because it was more focused on, him being a racer, which if you watch the cartoons, it was very much focused on, him being a racer and racing and then talking really fast and yeah, Speed Racer, go, Speed Racer, woo. Obviously, they don't, you read at your own pace in this, but I have a hard time not reading it fast paced, like when you're watching the cartoon. So I thought, this was a great issue, but just, I'm not a big racing fan, so it was hard for me to get into this issue, but it is a good series and it was a good issue. Next up, talking about series that I've had ranked high every single time, and like I said, top 8 were still good. This is number 7. So I did like this issue because it's still explaining the backstory and like what's going on, but this issue just didn't move the needle enough for me to be up in like my top 3, like it normally would be. But I thought this was a solid issue. It kind of goes over like the Rockefeller dad. It goes over his sister's story. It goes over his parents' story, and then it goes over him and his wife talking about what's going on, and then his kids. The daughter is young, so she's kind of just oblivious, and they're talking about moving. So the daughter's like, as long as I can bring my birds, I'm okay with that. And the son kind of picks up that what he's been being told is happening isn't actually what's happening. I think he's probably like a teenage boy, like 12, 13. And, he's smart. They're a very smart family. So I think the son is like, okay, well, this is happening. We gotta make some changes. So I think we're about to get into like the son's rebellious stage, which is always the most annoying part. As a father, every time I watch a comic or read a comic or watch a TV show or an anime or a movie or whatever, and the kid is doing something to rebel against the parents because he doesn't understand why the parents lied. And as a parent, you're just like, okay, sometimes you have to lie to your kids because you can't tell them like what's really going on. You know what I mean? You have to kind of like sugarcoat it a little bit. Like, obviously I try not to lie to my kids, but like sometimes you have to like I don't know, water it down a little bit, right? And I think that's what the dad did to the kid, but the kid finds out that what he thought was the truth isn't the truth. So I think it's setting up for a crazy story with the continuation of Rocketfellers. Next up, we got number 8. This is the last of the good issues that I read. And number 9 wasn't horrible. It just wasn't what I was hoping for the end. But you're going to have to wait till we get there. Maria Levette's Artificial. I went into this blind. I had no clue. I looked at the cover and I was like, oh, maybe it's a vampire like seducing a girl or whatever. There's no vampires in this book. This girl right here, she was in a relationship with a boring man and decided to call it off with him because he was just too nice and too polite and too... all the things that as a young man I thought women wanted, that's what this guy is. And then her and her girlfriends are all just like, nah, the dude's like boring and you stay away from him. Not because he's a bad guy, but just because he's just like, he's going to want to sit inside and watch TV all day. He's not going to want to go party or do, he's a boring guy. He's a good guy, but he's boring. It wasn't working for her. So she goes on a date with a guy, and then at the end of the date, you find out that it's not a guy, it's a robot that she is doing a trial bed for. And there's a little bit of spicy moments in there. And then he stops before it gets like full-blown spicy. And he's like, your trial's over, I'm leaving, have a great night. And then the robot leaves, and she's just like, oh my God. So she tells her girlfriends about it. Her girlfriends convince her to like, hey, you deserve this, you just got a raise, like, you should invest, like, subscribe to it and get one of these boyfriends. And her and one of her friends are really into like spicy novels. So she's setting up the AI date to go dating with her, and she's like setting him up to be her favorite character from her spicy novel. And then at the end, I think it's kind of leaving a little of a hint. It wasn't like very clear, but it was kind of like giving really context clues that something is about to happen bad. And it's because she was kind of like just so like not in the correct headspace. I get not in the correct headspace. She wasn't paying attention. She was kind of just like, okay, I did everything I need to do, next, while she was also typing to her friend or texting her friend. So she didn't pay attention to something she should have been paying attention to. So I'm thinking that's going to lead to something crazy happening. All right. Now we're going to number 9, and unfortunately it is Benjamin, issue number 3, the finale of this short run. I really like the idea. Of this. It's about a guy. The first 2 books, you're thinking, right? And if you're planning on reading this, I apologize if I'm ruining this for you. It's about a guy who thinks he's trapped inside of one of his novels, and he's trying to find a way to get out of his novel, and he's going through clues, and he's kind of picked up a side character who's along for the journey. And throughout this issue, he tries to convince the guy, like, okay, we're stuck inside of a dream, it's my dream, the only way for me to wake up is for me to die in my dream. So he tries to convince this guy, Marcus, to kill him. And they do the whole, he's laying in the bathtub, throws a toaster in there, the guy survives. He hits him with this van, the guy survives. He kicks him off the cliff, the guy survives. So it's like, okay. And then they come to the epiphany, I think they come to the epiphany that it's not Benjamin's dream, but it's Marcus's dream. And then it ends. There's obviously more to it than that, but it ends. It ends with just the last page with no explanation. The last page is just a picture of Marcus, and it says Marcus over his head. I wanted more. I wanted a deeper explanation. I wanted something crazier. I don't know. I wanted something else. Last and least, Closer by Gillen and Lieber. The story for me, here, I'm gonna give you a rundown of the comic. If you still want to read it, by all means read it. This girl gets pulled into an office to do an experiment. The experiment is her sitting in a room full of pigeons. Okay, she has to sit in this room full of pigeons for an hour. She doesn't get any explanation, but she has to sit in this room full of pigeons for an hour. When she leaves the room, a couple of scientists go in there. They count the pigeons. It started with 50 pigeons in there, and now there's 53 pigeons. So the head doctor, the head scientist is like, this is unbelievable. I need coffee. Nope, coffee's not working. I need beer. Nope, beer's not working. I need something stronger. So, like, going through that phase, right? And the whole time she's following him, and then he's like, tell me the truth. Like, what's going on with you? And she's like, I don't know. And then police try to arrest her, and then pigeons start flying out of the policemen, like ripping holes through the policemen, killing them. And then it goes to a flashback of her with another guy that she was with, like a lover, and they're laying in bed talking about music. And then it goes back to current time, and she walks into a bar where that guy's at, and he's like, I asked you to marry me and you just walked away. I need closure. And she's like, we were miserable. We didn't belong together. And he's like, no, I need closure. I need you. And then a hole opens up in the floor, and the guy falls into the floor and is surrounded by demons. And she's like, no, go to hell. And then it goes back to the last page, and the girl's back in the room with the pigeons, and the scientist is like, okay, the experiment's over, and you know, everything's normal, nothing bad happened. The last two I just talked about, I hate when I read a comic, and I'm just like, at the end, I'm just like, why did I read that? What was significant about that story? Why? The ending could have been so much better to this. And maybe, you know, like there's movies that I don't understand that people love. Maybe you'll pick this up. Maybe you'll pick these up and love them. I'm not saying that they're horrible writing and horrible art. I'm saying for my taste, I don't like them. Okay? They don't work for me. They left me scratching my head and going, why? Why? And I think this is a one-shot. Yeah, this is a one-shot. So we're not even going to get an explanation for this. This was a finale, so we're not going to get an explanation for this. I think those are the biggest reasons these two left me scratching my head going, why? Because they're so open-ended and ambiguous and just no explanation for what happened. You're just like, why? Why? But guys, those are the 10 that I read this morning. We'll do this again tomorrow with 10 different books, but if you're not going to read anything that I recommended, or if you are going to read something that I didn't recommend, or if you're just going to pick something up and read it, I hope you do, and I hope it stimulates your mind, and I hope you have a great day.